how's it going, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of JJ's One Man Podcast. I hope all of you out there had a great Thanksgiving if you celebrated the holiday. Got a lot of turkey, got a lot of good snacks, maybe some good drinks too. I know I had like 2 or 3 Thanksgivings technically because of all the food, like different places and different people and stuff. But regardless though, I hope you all had a good holiday or a chill day, like just in general, if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Anyway, here's what we're talking about today. I'm doing this a little bit later than usual, but since it's still before the Game Awards, now that we know the nominees of the show, or at least, the different awards that are going to be handed out, it's time to do some predictions and talk a little bit about the Game Awards 2021. Let me know down below in the comments section some of your picks for at least the games you guys want to see win, whether it's Game of the Year, whether it's RPG of the Year, Best Fighting Game, whatever category. Talk to me about that stuff down below in the comments. Leave a like on the video, of course, too, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So let's get right into this discussion. So I have all the nominees on my phone here on Google, looking at every single one of them, because going to the Game Awards website, there's like all these stupid effects and stuff. I just want to look at the nominees, son. Just make it simple, Jeff. I'm just saying, right? Anyway, I kid. Let's go through these nominations. So we're going to start off with the big one, okay? So Game of the Year. Here are the nominees. If you haven't already seen them, like I said, you could see them on the Game Awards website. But since we're running through this here, I'm going to read off each one and then give you guys my thoughts and my opinions about the category, about the games, especially the ones that I've played. So, Game of the Year 2021, the big one here is Resident Evil Village, It Takes Two, Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread, Deathloop, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Now, some people say this is indicative of like a very meh year, but I played some of these games and I didn't think that they were that bad. I didn't think like it was a crazy year like last year. Don't get me wrong. Last year, at least the different types of options we had for Game of the Year was pretty ridiculous, and it could have gone in any one of 100 different directions. I think that other stuff outside of games kind of influenced what ended up happening with those winners. But regardless, though, for this year, if I had to make a pick that might win Game of the Year this year, I think that it's either going to go to Psychonauts 2 or it's going to go to Resident Evil Village. Now, those are not my personal picks, and I think that an argument can be made for Deathloop for some people, because a lot of people said Deathloop was pretty good. But if I had a choice that I wanted to see win, I either want to see Metroid Dread or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart win, because those are the two games that, in my personal opinion, I had the most fun with, and I platinumed Ratchet & Clank. I played that game from start to finish completely, and that was one of the reasons why I got a PS5 to begin with, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was dope. And the same thing with Metroid Dread. A lot of people complain that Metroid Dread is very hard, but as a package, personally for me, an overall experience, that game is pretty darn good. And I think it's very worthy of being talked about as one of the best games this year. I didn't get to play Psychonauts 2 or It Takes Two, and I only saw so much of Resident Evil Village. And the same thing goes for Deathloop, so I can't really speak too much to those. There's just so many games that come out, and there's never enough time to get through everything. Some people are like, oh, you got to play everything out here in order to have an opinion about Game of the Year. I don't believe that's true. I think that's nonsense. As long as you're kind of tuned into the zeitgeist and see what people are saying and like some of the different footage that's out there, I feel like you could talk about this stuff. But anyway, let's move on to the next category. So those are my picks for Game of the Year, out of what we have available. So next one that I'm seeing on here is Content Creator of the Year. I don't really have an opinion about this because I don't know any of these names that are on here. I think that it would be nice to know, at least, let me know in the comments down below if any of these people that are nominated for Content Creator of the Year, because it looks like there's a lot of like streamers and stuff. If they're not connected to any of the people that are voting or any of the developers and studios that have games featured like that, then I'm totally cool with whoever wins. That was my big thing last time when I saw Alana Pierce nominated for one of these awards, which, again, I have nothing against Alana Pierce. I love her content, and I love hearing her talk about games. But when you really take a step back and you look at these awards and you see like, oh, she not only has friends in some of the different websites that are judging these awards, but also now works for Sony Santa Monica. On top of that, I've had relationships with all these other different people. That's what you call a conflict of interest in my eyes. And I think that's something where anybody that cares about that type of stuff will look at the awards and just like raise an eyebrow. So in that case, even though I love her content, I don't think she should have been nominated and definitely shouldn't have not been considered for winning one of the awards, which she didn't. It went to somebody else. And I'm, again, totally fine with that. But if any of these people are not connected to any of the judges, that are part of different websites, then I don't care who wins, to be honest with you, because I don't follow any of these people. But here's the listing of who's on there for Content Creator of the Year. There's Gaules, Iba Lanos, the Grief G, I don't know, Dream, and Fuseli. Again, I don't know any of these people, so whatever. Moving on, right? The next one, best ongoing game. There's Fortnite, Final Fantasy XIV Online, Call of Duty Warzone, Genshin Impact, or Apex Legends. Here's the crazy thing. I think Fortnite might win this. And if Fortnite doesn't win this, it's probably going to go to Final Fantasy XIV. And there's an argument that could be made for any one of these games. Because look at how much content and new stuff constantly that Fortnite has been getting every single year practically. Final Fantasy XIV has a ridiculous amount of content that people love, especially newer stuff with all the different expansions, which is awesome. Call of Duty Warzone is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest multiplayer game online right now next to Fortnite. Genshin Impact, I could say it's kind of the same thing, but I don't play Genshin Impact like that. I know some of my colleagues and mutuals are really into it, but I never really caught on to that. And the same thing with Apex Legends. That's another one where I feel like if I had to stack it against Call of Duty, I feel like everybody's going to pick Call of Duty every single time. But that's just me. Those are at least my picks. I think that if I really want to choose one that's going to win, that I want to win so bad, I want to see Final Fantasy XIV win. Because I feel like that game has done a lot of great stuff. Now, best multiplayer game. It Takes Two, Back 4 Blood, Knockout City, New World, Valheim, and Monster Hunter Rise. I haven't played all of these games. I've watched a lot of footage and followed some of the conversations about them. And I will say that if I had to choose one, I want to see Monster Hunter Rise get this. But I have a strong feeling something like either It Takes Two is going to win, or if maybe give or take, Knockout City might win. Because I did a whole thing with Knockout City. If you guys remember, both on my Twitch stream and even here on the YouTube channel, I gave away a bunch of codes for the game, and I played it on PlayStation 5. And that game is not bad. That game is actually kind of fun, especially if you have a good group with you. But that wouldn't be my personal pick to win this. I want to see Monster Hunter Rise take it. But anyway, that's just me. Next one, most anticipated game. Most anticipated game is basically whichever game has the most hype, whichever one is going to be most popular. And every single one of these games, you could make that argument. There's Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, whatever that game is going to be called, which Breath of the Wild 2 is not an official name for it. It's just like what it's known as. But regardless, though, the next one is Starfield, Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, and God of War Ragnarok. I want to say God of War Ragnarok, but I know because of the Nintendo factor and also the fact that everybody's like crazy over Elden Ring, one of those two games might get it. And who knows at this point. I want God of War Ragnarok to get it, but watch Breath of the Wild 2 end up taking this. Or again, Elden Ring. Next category, best mobile game, which I don't really care too much about, but here are the nominees. Marvel Future Revolution, Pokemon Unite, Genshin Impact, League of Legends Wild Rift, or Fantasian. I will say probably Pokemon Unite's going to take this. When it comes to mobile game, I think that one will take it, or Genshin Impact. Because those are the two games I feel like are the more popular, that are probably more widespread between all the other games on here. I could be wrong, but at least I'm going by what I've seen people talk about. Next category. Okay, here's where things start to get really interesting. Best role-playing game. We have Tales of Arise, Cyberpunk 2077, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Scarlet Nexus, and Monster Hunter Rise. Now I'm going to be open and upfront with you guys, and I've talked about this in a few spots. I even did a TikTok where I mentioned this, right? I don't think, and I personally feel, that Cyberpunk 2077 has any right to be in any of these categories. Straight up. Now, I know a lot of people out there, some of you in the comments here and there are probably going to say, well, JJ, like, just because it had a bad launch and all this other stuff doesn't mean that certain aspects of it aren't good or like terrible. Like, they could be still considered. Like, for example, Cyberpunk is also nominated, I think, for best soundtrack or best audio design. And my argument to that is this: while I understand where people are coming from with that, and it seems sound as far as like coming up with a talking point, my problem is that Cyberpunk was such a broken game to the point that PlayStation removed it from the store for a set amount of time, that it was that bad. And technically, they've even come in and made statements that Cyberpunk 2077, they're hoping next year or the year after, it will turn into a quote-unquote great game or a good game. That's not a game I think should be nominated for any awards, because it was just that broken. I played Cyberpunk for a good number of hours. Like, I didn't play it as many as other people, but I played at least over 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours on PC. And that game has a lot of problems. Like, a lot of freaking problems. So I don't think it should even be in this category for consideration for best RPG, because there's so many other games that came out that were stable that might not be as ambitious as Cyberpunk 2077, but they have their stuff together. They have a game experience that is not only competent, but also offers something to the players. Not like, you know, the whole conversation about them is about the game being broken and the company trying to fix it or getting delisted from a platform. I feel like when you got something like that, you know, that should come into play as far as like the quality of experience and what is everything around that game's talking points. So Out of this category for a role-playing game, I will say that personally, I want to see either Shin Megami Tensei 5 or Monster Hunter Rise take it. I've seen people talk positively about Tales of Arise and the same thing with Scarlet Nexus, but I'm not too keen on those games, even though I like the Tales series. I didn't play Tales of Arise, and the same thing, I didn't play Scarlet Nexus, so I don't know as much about them, but I've seen people talk about them here and there. But my personal picks, I want to see Shin Megami Tensei 5. I think that'll be really cool to win, or Monster Hunter Rise, another cool pick to win. Next one, best community support. This is the same thing with like the best ongoing game category, right? So we have Fortnite, Final Fantasy 14, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, and No Man's Sky for some odd reason. This just seems random to me. I'll tell you right now, either Fortnite or Final Fantasy 14 is going to take this. You can make the argument for Apex Legends, but I think just those two games are much bigger. I don't know why No Man's Sky is in here. I know it's gotten more like new content and it's changed up the game significantly, but that's got to be like a die-hard fan base that love that game that I know for a fact is not as big as any of these other games. And the same thing goes for Destiny 2. I know Destiny 2 has a rabid like group of people. I played a lot of Destiny 2 when it first came out. I did all that content for my previous website. But I just don't think as far as like best community support, like stuff that is like being given constantly to the people that are playing, that is either not only growing the player base, but also just offering new stuff to keep them interested. I think Fortnite and Final Fantasy 14 have this in the bag. One of those two games is going to win this. I bet you for best ongoing game, one will win that award and then the other one will win this one. If not, one will take both, which would be kind of weird, but I would totally understand that. So best score and soundtrack. Okay, we have Deathloop, Cyberpunk 2077, Near Replicant, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Artful Escape. I'll tell you right now, for best score soundtrack, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to take this. Now, I've seen some people, when I was talking with them about these nominees, say that, oh, it's just a compilation of like different like classic songs and stuff, which I get that. I don't necessarily think best score or soundtrack needs to be something completely original. Because you could still have an original great sounding soundtrack, but it might not work as good as like some of the other ones, you know, in other games, like whatever music they have compiled for it. And I think Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, that just oozes personality, placating to all the different like classic music of the era that Star-Lord listens to. That fits into the like, you know, the conversation, the dialogue, and just the vibe of that game. I haven't really sat down and played through that game in full, but I've seen enough footage to kind of get that. And I echo the same sentiments that I said about Cyberpunk 2077. That game should not be in any category for the way that that turned out. And this is one of the arguments that's against that, but I still stand by my opinion with it. As far as Deathloop, Near Replicant, and The Artful Escape, again, I haven't really played Deathloop. I haven't really played Near Replicant, but I know Near Automata and Near music in general is like fantastic. And the same thing for The Artful Escape. I haven't really played that, so I have really not much to say about those games. So best strategy game is the next one. We have Microsoft Flight Simulator, Inscription, Age of Empires 4, Humankind, and Evil Genius 2 World Domination. I'm not a huge RTS guy. I'm not a huge strategy guy when it comes to playing games, but I do have to respect a lot of the hard work and detail that goes into this style of game because they really go crazy with a lot of the visual stuff, especially for games that have you taking a more passive approach to what's going on screen. So if I had to choose one out of these games, even though I've never really played any of them, I will say either Age of Empires 4 or Microsoft Flight Simulator might take this. Because I know Flight Simulator is really popular amongst people, especially this year. And that game looks gorgeous. Like, if you've ever seen any footage of that game, it's really nice looking. And then Age of Empires 4 is the same thing. It's just that has a lot of stuff involving different cities, you know, groups of, like, armies or enemies in one spot. It's pretty dope overall to look at. So, best performance. We have Maggie Robertson from Resident Evil Village, Erica Mori from Life is Strange True Colors, Jason E. Kelly from Deathloop, Giancarlo Esposito from Far Cry 6, and Ozima Akaga. Oh my god, I totally butchered that name and I apologize. But Oziyama is from Deathloop. Out of all these ones, despite me messing up the name, again, I apologize. If I had to choose one, I would either give it to Giancarlo or I would give it to Maggie Robertson from Resident Evil Village. You know, the funny thing is, too, I could say Erica could also have a strong argument because if you've ever played Life is Strange True Colors, I think the voice acting is very on point. But I think that, you know, when it comes to popularity and stuff, I think that people are either going to give it to Giancarlo or they're going to give it to Maggie for both either Far Cry 6 or Resident Evil Village. Let me tell you something. Giancarlo as a villain in anything, especially in Far Cry 6, is freaking dope. I'm a big Giancarlo fan, but if I remove that from play, I would say that a lot of people are also very big fans of Maggie Robinson's performance in Resident Evil Village. So That's my stance on that. Now, best art direction. Okay, Psychonauts 2, Deathloop, Ken of Bridge of Spirits, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, or The Artful Escape. I think that this one more than likely is going to go to Psychonauts 2. Because when you're talking about art direction, you're talking about like interesting visuals and stuff that's different or unique. Psychonauts 2 out of all these games has the most interesting one. Now, some people have said, because they've played it and I haven't played it yet, Ken of Bridge of Spirits looks dope. And I've seen trailers and like gameplay footage of it. Some people say that game is like freaking fantastic. And it has a strong argument to win this category. But since I haven't played it, and I don't think that, even though I love Ratchet and Clank, I don't think that it's as good as far as having like interesting visuals as Psychonauts 2. I'm giving it to Psychonauts 2. That's just me. Now, best narrative is the next category. We have It Takes Two, Psychonauts 2, Life is Strange True Colors, Deathloop, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. And funny enough, knowing what I know from all these games, even though I haven't really played them too much, I will say that every single one of these games, when it comes to narrative and story that you follow, I think they all have a very strong argument. Which one do I think is going to take it, though, personally? I would say either Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy or Life is Strange. Or It Takes Two. I think those are the top three. So it'd be It Takes Two, Life is Strange True Colors, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. If I had to really choose which ones had the strongest like likelihood of winning this. And I would only say Life is Strange True Colors here, specifically because if it doesn't win here, it definitely is probably going to win in Games for Change, more than likely, because that series, or at least that type of style of game, almost always takes it in that category if it doesn't get it here. So if you don't get Life is Strange is the winner here, I would say either It Takes Two or Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Next one. Best esports game, which, you know, a lot of people care about esports, but me personally and some of my mutuals, we don't really care too much. We have Call of Duty, League of Legends, Dota 2, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and Valorant. Despite all the craziness that's been going on with Activision lately, okay, I'm trying to remove that from here, and I feel like maybe the winner that's chosen here will also take this into account. I will say that the ones that have the strongest case is Call of Duty, would be Dota 2 and Valorant. I think those are the three. And you could say League of Legends too, but I think also that'll come down to popularity because of the thing with Netflix now, with the Arcane show. But again, a lot of strong arguments can be made about this. I mean, how do you really judge this if you're not really looking at popularity? And especially with what's going on right now with the discussions about Activision, it might be one of those things where it's like, you know what? You know, we'll give it to one of the other ones, you know, instead of talking about an Activision game with all this stuff happening right now. But who knows? You know, they could probably just come on and just like say that, hey, Call of Duty won this category and not make a big deal about it. Just walk off for all we know. So best esports player. This one I'm not really going to comment on because I don't know any of these people. I don't know any of these individuals. So they have a couple in here. They have Hyo Su. They have Magomed Kalilov, or again, I can't pronounce it. Simple, Chris Lair, and Tyson Nigo. And Nigo, I think it's NGO. I can't pronounce that right like that, but I don't know none of these players. It's just whatever. It is what it is, but hopefully whoever is more suited for it wins this category. Now, here's where we start to get cooking again, okay? Best fighting game. Now, this is a category I feel like is a given. I feel like this category is totally a given. So the nominees are Demon Slayer, the Hinokami Chronicles, Virtua Fighter 5, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, Guilty Gear Strive, and Melty Blood Type Lumina. I think that Guilty Gear Strive has this in the bag. Straight up. Like, not even kidding, not even joking. I don't think it's really up for discussion because I might like Virtua Fighter 5 for what it is, and I think that was a Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is interesting, and Melty Blood is really a game that people love that series in general. I think that Guilty Gear Strive is the one that made the most impact, and I think is the highest quality of all these games. Even more so, in my opinion, than Virtua Fighter 5, with all that it has to offer. And I have my gripes with Guilty Gear Strive. I wrote a review for the Flynn's blog about it. But, and Demon Slayer, I just never played Demon Slayer. And I think that a lot of the Bandai Namco games, especially the fighting games, are nowhere near in high quality compared to what you get from like Arc System Works or from like Sega or Capcom. But that's just my personal opinion. I think Guilty Gear Strive has this one in the bag. Best action game is the next one. So we got Back 4 Blood, Deathloop, Returnal, Chivalry 2, and Far Cry 6. Now, I haven't really played any of these games, and I've seen and watched stuff for all of them. A lot of people have told me that Back 4 Blood is kind of meh. Back 4 Blood is kind of like whatever in comparison to other stuff. Like some people would say that Deathloop was better. Some people would definitely say that Returnal is better. And I think that's, for me, the pick that's going to win best action game here. And the same thing also for Far Cry 6, because Far Cry 6 wasn't gangbusters. It's more Far Cry, but it wasn't doing anything like terrible. It was actually a pretty solid experience if you love that type of game. But if I had to pick one here, and I know nothing, for the record, I know nothing about Chivalry 2. I never played that series. I never really looked at it. I see it on here, so it must have done something good. But if I had to choose which one is going to win, I would say Returnal. I think a lot of people really like Returnal, and it was really talked about for a long time. So, best sports and racing game. This category is weird too because Forza Horizon 5 just came out, and a lot of people were kind of like a little antsy about it. It's this weird thing with the Game Awards where the timing of stuff is all over the place. Where if you have certain big games that are like phenomenal or certain games that come out right at the end of the year that make a big splash, it's usually because they reach just before the deadline hits to submit their game for the Game Awards. So games that came out earlier in the year kind of get overshadowed in some way. And I know some people say that's not fair, that's kind of crappy or whatever, but you know, if you hit the deadline, you should at least be considered. So for best sports games, we got sports and racing games, I should say. We got FIFA 22, we got F1 2021, Riders Republic, Forza Horizon 5, and Hot Wheels Unleashed. I'll tell you right now, I think that Forza Horizon 5 is going to win this. And not because FIFA 22 or F1 2021 is any bad, but I think a lot of the stuff in the reception with the EA, like, you know, Ultimate Team type of stuff and those microtransactions, a lot of people were very turned off by that and really annoyed by it. And everybody else seems to be very, 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 very happy with Forza Horizon 5. And the other two games, I just don't even know, like, what's up with them. Riders Republic, I never played before. And Hot Wheels, you know, I mean, it's cool. I love Hot Wheels, but I think Forza Horizon 5's got this. Best audio design, right? Resident Evil Village, Deathloop, Returnal, Forza Horizon 5, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I think a lot of these different games all have a strong case to win best audio design. I think the one that's probably going to take it is going to be Resident Evil Village, simply because it is a horror game and you have to have a really, really good audio design to match up with the horror genre. Otherwise, your jump scares and just the atmosphere you tried to build just falls apart. And people really liked Resident Evil Village, and I think the audio design has a real big part of that. Best action adventure. Okay, so we got Resident Evil Village, Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, or Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I would like to see Metroid Dread win this one, okay? But if I'm being realistic here, I would either say Resident Evil Village will take it, or Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. As much as I like Ratchet & Clank, I don't think that it's going to win compared to those games, just the way that people talked about them. And Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is good. Again, I platinumed this game. But with the way that people have like really highly praised Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy as an action game, which is funny because it's such a turnaround from what we saw with Marvel's Avengers, that it's surprising to see it in a lot of these categories. And I think, is that it? Yeah, I think that's all of them there. So yeah, that's me running through every single one of the Game Awards nominees this year for 2021. And I'm looking forward to watching the show. Of course, I'm looking forward to the trailers. I'm looking forward to all the big world premieres, which is what Jeff Keighley brings to the table. Besides the actual presenting of the awards and all the musical guests and stuff. It's the spectacle of the thing that I think has a lot of charm for some people. One day I hope to actually present at the Game Awards, you know, as an individual, you know, just like presenting a game. I think that'd be really freaking dope because I believe that us as an industry, we need stuff like this. As much as we complain about it, as much as we criticize the Game Awards, we have to respect not only that Jeff Keighley was one of the people in the industry that cared enough to go and do this stuff and to put us on par, at least, you know, be viewed in a similar light to what we see with music with the Grammys or movies with the Oscars or anything else like that. Because there's other gaming award shows that are out there like DICE and stuff, but it doesn't get the same amount of care and attention from the audience as the Game Awards does, because there's something for the audience. Even if you don't care about the awards, there's something for you to show up, which I think is great. And again, it's cool to celebrate games in this type of light. It happens every year. Everybody says the exact same things about the show where they're complaining about different elements of it, but really that's the honest God's truth about this stuff. So I'm looking forward to watching it. Anyway, those are my thoughts about the Game Awards 2021. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.